Hey guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and finally Kubo answers one of the major questions that had been on many fans' minds since the release of the Everything But the Rain flashback events. Isshin went to the human world to investigate the appearance or disappearance of some officers in Naroki City and then got into a fight with White and nearly used his Bankai. Many wondered, was Ishin's power sealed by the Genji Rein during that fight, or was he fighting at full power? And as I said, we finally have an official answer from Kubo himself, an answer that gives us a clear picture of Ishin's true power and closes a long-standing debate on this topic. So guys, here's what happened. So this fan said that when Isshin fought White in the real world was his in stage where his power was restricted by the limiting spirit seal. Kubo gives him a direct and clear answer. Yes, that's right. As I said guys before, this completely changes our understanding of Isshin's power in his battle against White. But before we dive deeper into that, let's talk about the Genji Rein, which I discussed recently in one of my last videos. So this term guys refers to how fragile the human world is and how the power of souls from the other world can severely affect human souls, especially if they use too much combat power. That's why guys, the Genji Rein is a seal placed on captains and vice captains when they head up to the human world, limiting their power by 80% and allowing them to use only 20% of their total strength. And the clearest example we have is when Toshiro's team came to the human world, made up of Captain Toshiro and his Vice Captain Matsumoto, and Renji, the Vice Captain of Squad 6, Eikaku and Yumichika were also part of that team, as the 3rd and 5th seat officers of Squad 11. Out of all of them, only Toshiro, Matsumoto and Renji had the Genji Rein seal placed on them, and the rest did not. And this really clarified a lot at the time. So when Grimijo arrived with his Fratheon, we saw how Toshiro and the others struggled badly against the Arankars, who weren't even Espada level, just Fratheon. And back then guys, everyone started doubting the Shinigami's abilities, thinking all Arankars were overwhelmingly powerful, especially since Toshiro and Renji used their Bankai and still couldn't keep up with their enemies. The 15 Arankar Elfort Grands even assumed that the Gote 13 were just losers, seeing how much Renji was struggling even with his Bankai. And Toshiro thought that Xiaolong was the 11th strongest Arankar just because he couldn't stand against him, especially after Xiaolong released his resurrection. But the moment they activated Genji Kaijo, everything changed. As Toshiro explained, removing the seal allows captains and vice captains to fight at full power, and as soon as Toshiro and the others removed their seals, they easily whipped out Grimijo's Fratheon. Meanwhile guys, Eikaku faced the Arankar Edward and barely won using his Bankai, and his Bankai even broke and he lost a lot of his power. According to Toshiro and Renji guys, the seal is only placed on captains and vice captains. So even though Eikaku had a Bankai and could have been considered captain level, it seemed like his strength wasn't that big. I mean, imagine if 80% of Ikaku's power had been sealed. He would have definitely killed by that Arankar, even with his Bankai. So now, imagine what this means for Isshin's fight against White. Because some fans assumed that Isshin fought with his full power, since he went on unauthorized mission without Gote 13's approval, and so they thought the Genji Rein wasn't placed. But that wasn't the case. It seems that whenever captains or vice captain pass through the Senkaimon, the seal is automatically applied and gradually reduces their power. Which means Isshin, when he arrived in the human world, was already limited to just 20% of his full power, and yet we saw how he released a huge amount of Ryatsu to lure White, so much that the other officers were shocked by its intensity. Secondly guys, when White first appeared, Isshin thought it was just a holo, so he took a defensive stance, considering it wasn't worth getting serious over. And at that moment guys, Isshin was only using his sealed Zanpakuto, not even fighting seriously yet. But once he released this was no ordinary hollow, it was like a menace. That's when Isshin decided to fight with his Shikai, raising his fire's impact. And the idea was that Isshin was gradually ramping up the fight. He released his Shikai first, and if he saw the fight or things got too serious, he would have used his Bankai to end it quickly. And I say this based on what Aizen did. When Aizen intervened and stabbed Isshin in the back, he said, if this prototype is defeated by a captain in Shikai mode, it will be a failed experiment. Me and Aizen wanted to test White against Isshin's Shikai. And to ensure the fight didn't escalate to Bankai level, he injured Isshin deliberately to stop him using it. And this strongly implies that Aizen knew exactly what Isshin's Bankai was capable of. And even so guys, Isshin was still able to hold his own against White while injured. And with Shikai alone, he was even able to blow off one of White's arms. So most likely he would have won, but with difficulty, especially because of the injury he suffered. The proof is that Isshin took that massive explosion from White and still survived. So guys, imagine that Isshin did all of that while fighting with only 20% of his power. 20%. We're talking about less than a quarter of Isshin's power, not even half. And this shows you guys just how powerful Isshin really is. If he had been fighting at full power, I believe he would have finished White the same way he did with the Grand Fissure. Because I believe that when Isshin got his power back after 20 years, that clearly freed him from the limiter, and this could explain why he appeared with such overwhelming strength, both against the Grand Fissure and against Aizen Sasuke. Against the Grand Fissure, Isshin defeated him effortlessly with just his sealed sword. As for Aizen, we saw how Isshin was fighting him toe to toe before Aizen fully merged with the Hogiku. And even then, Isshin used a Getsuga Tensho that was able to slash Aizen's face. That's why guys, I want to see a fight when Isshin uses both his Shikai and Bankai without restrictions. No doubt that would be terrifying. Part 4 might actually make that happen. Despite the limited number of enemies, it's possible Isshin could go all out against Yhwach, especially alongside Ryuken, since both of them have a strong reason and personal motivation to fight Yhwach, given that he killed their wives. So guys, what do you think about Kubo's answer? Give me guys your explanation, your thoughts in the comments, and see you guys in my next video.